In the small, sleepy town of Willow Creek, nestled in the heart of Ohio, Crestwood High School was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business. The hallways buzzed with the usual teenage chatter, gossip about who was dating who made the varsity team, and who bombed the latest math test. But for the past week, all anyone could talk about was the new girl, Lena Carver. She'd moved to town from Chicago, a city kid with a sharp tongue and a wardrobe that screamed confidence. Her leather jackets, ripped jeans, and combat boots stood out in a sea of Crestwood's predictable flannel and sneakers. To some, she was a breath of fresh air. To others, like the group of senior boys who ruled the school's social hierarchy, she was a target. Lena wasn't your typical high schooler. At 17, she carried herself with a quiet intensity, her dark eyes scanning rooms like she was sizing up every person in them. Her auburn hair was usually tied back in a messy bun, and she had a habit of smirking when teachers called on her, as if she knew something they didn't. Maybe it was her city upbringing, or maybe it was the fact that she'd switched schools 3 times in the last 2 years, but Lena had a knack for spotting trouble before it found her. And at Crestwood, trouble came in the form of Tyler Brooks and his crew. Tyler was the golden boy of Crestwood High, quarterback of the football team, prom king material, and the kind of guy who could charm his way out of detention with a grin. His friends, Jake, Matt, and Connor, followed his lead like loyal dogs, each one eager to prove their place in the pack. They were the type of boys who thrived on power, the kind who'd trip a freshman in the cafeteria just to hear the tray crash and the room erupt in laughter. To them, Lena's arrival was like a shiny new toy to break. It started small. Whispers in the hallway as Lena passed by. "City girl thinks she's too good for us," Jake muttered one day, loud enough for her to hear. She didn't flinch, just kept walking, her boots clicking against the linoleum. By the second week, the taunts grew bolder. Connor, accidentally, bumped into her in the cafeteria, sending her tray of food to the floor. The room exploded with laughter, but Lena just picked up her apple, dusted it off, and took a bite, staring Connor down until he looked away. Tyler, watching from a table nearby, smirked. "She's got guts," he said to his friends. "Let's see how long that lasts." The real trouble came on a crisp October afternoon, during the last period of the day. Lena had stayed late in the art room, working on a project, a charcoal sketch of a city skyline that was already earning her praise from Ms. Hargrove, the art teacher. The hallways were mostly empty as she headed to her locker, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her favorite denim jacket tied around her waist. She didn't notice Tyler and his crew lurking near the gym doors, their voices low and conspiratorial. "Hey, city girl," Tyler called out, his voice echoing down the hall. Lena slowed but didn't stop, her eyes narrowing as she turned to face them. The 4 boys sauntered toward her, their sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. Tyler was in the lead, his Letterman jacket slung over his shoulder like a trophy. Jake had a basketball tucked under his arm, spinning it lazily. Matt and Connor flanked them, their grins sharp and predatory. "What do you want, Brooks?" Lena asked, her voice steady but laced with irritation. Tyler stepped closer, too close, his height forcing her to tilt her head up to meet his gaze. "Just wondering why you walk around like you own this place," he said, his tone mocking. "That jacket of yours, it's real nice. Bet it cost a pretty penny in Chicago." Lena's jaw tightened. The jacket was a gift from her older brother, who'd saved up for months to buy it for her before she left the city. It was more than just clothing, it was a piece of home. "Back off, Tyler," she said, her voice low. "I'm not in the mood." "Oh, she's not in the mood," Jake mimicked, earning a chuckle from the others. Before Lena could react, Connor lunged forward, grabbing the jacket from her waist. She reached for it, but Matt stepped in, shoving her back against the lockers with just enough force to make her stumble. "Give it back," Lena said, her voice sharp now, her eyes locked on Connor as he dangled the jacket like a prize. "Make me," Connor taunted, tossing it to Jake. The boys laughed as they started a game of keep away, tossing the jacket back and forth while Lena stood there, her hands clenched into fists. She didn't beg or plead, she just watched, her expression unreadable. Finally, Tyler caught the jacket and held it up, inspecting it like it was evidence. "You know what?" he said, his grin widening. "This thing's too good for Crestwood." Before Lena could move, he pulled a pocketknife from his jeans and sliced into the sleeve, the sound of ripping fabric echoing in the quiet hallway. Jake and Matt howled with laughter as Tyler tore the jacket further, the denim shredding under his blade. Connor joined in, yanking at the other sleeve until it hung in tatters. Lena didn't scream or cry. She stood frozen, her face a mask of calm that hid the storm brewing inside. When Tyler finally tossed the ruined jacket at her feet, he leaned in close, his voice dripping with smug satisfaction. "Welcome to Crestwood, city girl." The boys walked away, their laughter fading down the hall. Lena knelt slowly, picking up the shredded remains of her jacket. Her fingers traced the torn seams, and for a moment, her eyes glistened, but she blinked it away. She stood, tucked the ruined jacket into her backpack, and walked out of the school, her head held high. That night, Lena sat in her bedroom, the jacket spread out on her desk. Her new house was small, a rental her mom had found after the divorce, and the walls were still bare, boxes half unpacked in the corner. She stared at the jacket, her brother's voice echoing in her mind. "Wear it like armor, Lena. Don't let anyone dull your shine." She clenched her jaw, her anger hardening into something else, resolve. Lena wasn't a stranger to bullies. In Chicago, she dealt with her share of wannabe tough guys and mean girls. But Crestwood was different. It was smaller, suffocating, and these boys thought they were untouchable. She'd seen their type before, guys who got off on power because deep down, they were scared of losing it. Lena wasn't about to let them break her. If they wanted a fight, she'd give them one they'd never forget. The next morning, Lena walked into school wearing a different jacket, a black leather one that hugged her frame, paired with boots that looked like they could crush concrete. She didn't look defeated, she looked dangerous. The whispers started immediately, but she ignored them, her focus razor sharp. She'd spent the night planning, and now it was time to act. Step 1 was reconnaissance. Lena knew Tyler and his crew weren't just random jerks, they were calculated. They targeted people who seemed weak, who wouldn't fight back. But they weren't invincible. Tyler's ego was his biggest weakness, tied to his status as the school's golden boy. Jake was a follower, desperate for approval. Matt was the muscle, but he wasn't bright. And Connor. Connor was the wild card, the one who'd hesitate if pushed hard enough. Lena needed to hit them where it hurt, their reputations. Her first move came during lunch. The cafeteria was packed, the air thick with the smell of pizza and teenage chaos. Tyler and his crew held court at their usual table, surrounded by cheerleaders and teammates. Lena walked in, her tray in hand, and instead of heading to her usual corner, she made a beeline for their table. The room quieted as heads turned. "Brooks," she said, stopping in front of Tyler. Her voice was loud enough to carry, and she could feel every eye on her. "You owe me a jacket." Tyler leaned back in his chair, smirking. "You still crying about that? It was just a joke, city girl. Get over it." Lena didn't blink. She reached into her backpack and pulled out the shredded remains of her denim jacket, dropping it onto the table in front of him. A collective gasp rippled through the room. "This," she said, "wasn't a joke. It was vandalism. And I'm guessing your coach wouldn't be thrilled to hear his star quarterback's been cutting up other people's property." Tyler's smirk faltered, just for a second. "You gonna snitch?" he said, but there was a nervous edge to his voice. "I don't need to snitch," Lena replied, her tone icy. "I just need everyone to know what kind of person you are." She turned to the crowd, her voice rising. "Anyone else have a story about Tyler and his boys? Because I'm betting I'm not the only one they've messed with." The cafeteria was silent for a beat. Then, from the back, a sophomore girl named Mia stood up. "They trashed my science project last year," she said, her voice shaky but clear. "Said it was an accident, but I saw them laughing." Another voice piped up, a junior named Ethan. "They locked me in the equipment room during gym. I missed a whole period." One by one, students started speaking up, their stories spilling out like a dam breaking. Tyler's face reddened, his cool demeanor cracking as the room turned against him. Jake shifted uncomfortably, and Matt looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. Connor just stared at his tray, avoiding eye contact. Lena didn't stop there. Over the next few days, she turned the tables with surgical precision. She'd learned from a friend in the school's AV club that Jake had a side hustle selling test answers, a secret he'd bragged about to his buddies. Lena, accidentally, left a printed chat log of Jake's texts on the principal's desk, anonymously, of course. By Friday, Jake was suspended, his reputation as Tyler's right-hand man in tatters. Matt was next. Lena had noticed he was obsessed with his new truck, a shiny black monster he parked in the school lot every day. She didn't touch the truck, that would have been too easy. Instead, she tipped off the school security guard about Matt's habit of sneaking off campus during lunch to smoke with his buddies. A quick search of his truck turned up a pack of cigarettes and a lighter, enough to earn him a week of detention and a call to his parents, who grounded him and took his keys. Connor was the easiest. Lena caught him alone in the library one day, pretending to study. She sat across from him, her stare unwavering. "You're not like them," she said quietly. "You don't have to be." Connor didn't say much, but the next day, he stopped sitting with Tyler's crew. Word spread that he'd bailed, and the group's unity started to crack. Tyler was the final piece. Lena knew he cared about one thing above all else, his football scholarship. She didn't need to destroy him, she just needed to expose him. During the homecoming game, with the stands packed and scouts in attendance, Lena made her move. She'd worked with the AV club to put together a montage of clips, nothing illegal, just embarrassing. Tyler tripping a freshman in the hall. Tyler mocking a teacher behind her back. Tyler tossing her ruined jacket to the ground. The clips played on the Jumbotron during halftime, set to a looping audio of Tyler's own voice, "Welcome to Crestwood, City Girl." The crowd went silent, then erupted in whispers. Tyler froze on the field, his face pale as the scouts scribbled notes. By Monday, rumors swirled that his scholarship offer was under review. His crew was fractured, his reputation in ruins. Lena didn't gloat, she didn't need to. She'd taken them down without throwing a single punch. In the weeks that followed, Lena became something of a legend at Crestwood. The kids who'd been targeted by Tyler's crew started sitting with her at lunch, forming an unspoken alliance. She never bragged about what she'd done, but the message was clear: mess with her, and you'd regret it. As for the jacket, she sewed it back together, stitching the tears with bright red thread that made it look like a work of art. She wore it proudly, a reminder that she wasn't just a survivor, she was a force. And in the quiet moments, when she was alone in her room, Lena would smile, knowing her brother would have been proud. She hadn't just fought back, she'd changed the game.